Hello, and welcome to The Alt Left.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Alt Left. This is episode 74. I'm your host, Chris, and with me is the good Reverend Dr. K.
Good evening, everyone.
And Matthew, oh my God, what is that thing? Jumbo Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back.
Oh my God, what is that thing?
Told you, warned you.
It's Brett Kavanaugh.
Ooh.
Wrong dick.
But did you guys hear? So, for those of you that are joining us this week, we're going to cover a couple of current events this week. First of which is
now, real quick though, before we go in there, I want to make a disclaimer for our listeners. We understand that the January 6th hearings have started. It's actually, we are recording this on Thursday, the day they are starting. So we have nothing to report. So we're not handling that right now. So you're going to hear this on Monday and be like, why the fuck haven't they covered this amazing thing about, Dildo the dinosaur was there and resurrected Hitler? And no, because we don't know that yet. So just so you know, that'll probably be coming next week or the week after. We'll do a January 6th wrap up when it's done. But that's why we're not doing that.
oh my God, wouldn't that be a great fucking news break? It's like the whole reason for the six riots were basically people trying to summon Hitler in the White House.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's actually pretty accurate as to what's going on.
Yeah, bombshell.
I mean, you do know that, like, in Germany, because it's illegal to use Nazi flag.
Oh, they use
Nazis in Germany wave Confederate flags.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. but it's just a symbol of states' rights.
Heritage, not hate. But yeah, that should tell you what the world thinks of the fucking Confederacy and the South. So I think your humorous analogy was actually, unfortunately, spot on. Because we're in the darkest fucking timeline.
Yep. And it's just getting darker.
Did you hear that MTG is actually, and they're actually, like, they've started this week where she had some press conference where they're openly calling themselves fascists?
Really?
Yes.
One thing I did see, though, that was interesting is Boebert is, looks like they're going to open fraud investigations on Boebert because she basically paid herself back for mileage, and the mileage was bigger than the circumference of the earth. And so now she looks like she's going to be investigated for fraud. Now, we know what happened is she had a business, like a restaurant or something, that was in trouble. And so she used the money for that, but they're trying to say that it was because of mileage reimbursement for her campaign trail. But of course, the mileage she asked for was like $22,000 of mileage. Ended up being more than the actual circumference of the planet Earth. So,
and in also today, before we go into the real news stories, did you see the FBI took down the Michigan, Michigan gubernatorial candidate?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, as part of the January 6th commission, the FBI arrested the governor candidate the Republican candidate for Michigan for governor.
Nice.
That is amazing.
For part of the insurrection.
Wow.
So that's all we've got for insurrection news, guys.
So he'll definitely be the candidate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no shit. I mean, at this point, like, being like, I tried to overturn democracy and hang Mike Pence. It's like, oh, good job, bravo, GOP all the way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. But in some interesting news, related news, now, they're still getting the details on this, but, speaking of dicks and Brett Kavanaugh, somebody actually flew from California all the way to Maryland to murder him and got caught. Now, first of all, I think one of the things I love about this is not only was this guy wanted to kill him basically because he believed that killing him would allow gun legislation to go through the courts and also prevent the ending of Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. Yeah, that was his reasoning. But what I love the best is that person actually lives right here in my hometown of Simi. Which, for those of you that don't know, we've mentioned it before, this is kind of like the right-wing police capital of California. This is where the Reagan Library is at. There are signs literally everywhere saying things like Simi Valley loves cops. This is where all the San Fernando Valley police like to live. It is, you aren't going to get that much more right in California than you will here. Unless, of course, you go to Orange County, then you've got the Nazis over there. But, I mean, we got them.
Because Orange County is worse than Simi. Trust me, I've lived in both. Trump only campaigned in one of them.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, this guy flew all the way out to Maryland and apparently like got out of a car in front of his house dressed in black with a black backpack and a black bag filled with a gun and a knife. His intent was to break into the Brett Kavanaugh's house, shoot him, stab him, and then kill himself. Don't know why he didn't go in right off the bat, but apparently he was spotted by a couple of U.S. Marshals walking around the neighborhood, because of course they've been having protests around the house. So of course they need to have U.S. Marshals around the neighborhood. I mean, what is this, a school? Not like we're going to leave it alone abandoned. So, but yeah, so this is what happened. We're trying to figure it out. The guy's basically been, according to what reports we have, he's been off of his meds. He's not exactly coherent. People described him as always being very friendly, but he's like some 26-year-old dude that just...
Well, and the marshals spotted him, but he actually called the cops on himself.
Yeah, he did. He called a...
Did he really?
A crisis line. Saying, yeah.
So, well, I mean, at least he's self-aware enough to know that he's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. But I think that was more because he didn't want to kill himself, not because he didn't want to kill Brett Kavanaugh.
I mean,
well, that may be too.
Trying to do both, but
yeah.
And for the record, Matt and Kay do not condone killing politicians.
That is correct.
Excuse me. Point of order. I actually, there's several politicians that I think need to die.
For the record, Dr. K does not condone killing.
For the
record, glad we
the Reverend
the Reverend Dr. K does not condone violence.
Look, things are getting dark, I know, but it has been very hard this year, especially for me to keep saying that violence isn't the answer, and I've rode that horse for quite some time. But I've just seen year after year of nothing getting done. And we elected Biden, and we got not only did we get what exactly we predicted, it was worse. Because we knew Biden was going to be shit. I didn't think Biden was going to be as bad or worse than Trump. Yep. And that's what we got. And it's just like, no.
Hold on. Excuse me. Hold on. I told you so. Oh, God, that felt good. That felt so good.
Feel good?
It felt so good.
You want to take a moment to rub their nips?
Yeah, a little bit. I just clean up at this point.
All right, cool. Okay, you can go ahead and leave that part in, just so our audience knows what's going on.
Just so people know what we sound like before Kay edits us.
Yeah,
you got
exactly.
It.
But also, man, you are really going to like the panel I just... In fact, actually, Matt, if you check the email, I think he sent it over. I was on a panel for the lovely 805 Uncensored podcast, which if our listeners haven't checked it out, you fucking need to. They're amazing.
Yeah, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah,
Jesus
seriously.
Christ. Jordan's amazing. And I got his name right. First time.
Okay, right? Nice. I was part of a panel with Jordan, a couple people I didn't know, and somebody else from the 805 podcast, and also with Daniel Wilson, who's currently running for the representative seat. It was really cool, and it was actually talking about, can we at any point now at this point when dealing with these fascists and Nazis count violence out as a tactic? Is there a peaceful coexistence with people who advocate for genocide? I mean, I'm pretty sure you know what our answer was, but it's a really good roundtable discussion, and that'll be coming up soon. We have the audio. That'll probably be next week or the week after that we'll have it for you guys. But Matt, you're gonna like that one. That's kind of what we're talking about. Is we've crossed a bridge in this country. And it's something we need to recognize. Is like, these guys are openly calling themselves white nationalists and fascists now. This isn't a label that the left is putting on them. They're admitting it. They're calling themselves Christian fundamentalists, white nationalists, and some of them are calling themselves openly fascist. Shit is gonna go down soon.
I just wish that people actually knew what those terms actually meant. Because I think that...
But they do.
I think that well, okay. I think that the people that are using them know, but I don't think that the general public honestly understand what those terms actually mean and what real effect people calling themselves these things actually has on our society today.
But
because if they did, then they would be more staunchly against them. I think they would.
No, I don't think so, because Google is a thing that exists. While you were making what you were saying that, Kay, I literally just typed in definition of fascism, and I got
Yes,
Merriam-Webster's as number one. And look, listen, hold on. Definition number one: a political philosophy, movement, or regime such as that of fascism that exalts nation and often race above the individual, and that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition. Anybody that reads that should immediately be able to be like, oh, I know what party that sounds like.
No,
Yeah.
but they don't. But they don't, unfortunately. But that's why I say that they don't understand the ramifications of what these things, what these terms actually mean when it comes to our society. They think of it kind of as in this analogous term of, oh, well, they're just fascists. It's okay. Or, they're just white nationalists. They're nationalists. They don't think about what these terms really mean when they hear them. They don't go and do they don't go and do the 12-second research and look up and really think about what that definition really means.
I couldn't disagree more. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it.
Well, hold on real quick.
It's not a matter of not knowing.
Think about something, though, is that, like, Kay's making the point that he wants them to know, and I think Kay has a point in. I think you're both making separate points. I think Kay is saying, I wish these guys weren't fucking idiots and willfully ignorant. And Matt is saying there's no goddamn excuse for being this willful ignorant. Because finding this out takes... Matt is making the point that there's no excuse for being this willfully ignorant at all. It takes 5 seconds and zero effort to not be a total fucking moron about this. And I think you're both correct, but I think you're arguing different arguments. Matt is saying that there's no reason to be this ignorant, and Kay is saying, I wish these people weren't so fucking ignorant.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think that what you're saying right there is actually the crux of what our misunderstanding is, because I wish that they actually cared. I wish that they actually understood. It is willful ignorance. They just don't have an interest in it.
Yeah. Going back to the original point, I can't anymore. I've reached the point where I just don't believe that we're going to vote ourselves out of this anymore. I honestly believe the only way this country has a prayer of getting hope is if the left does exactly what the right thinks we're going to do, pulls out the guillotines and starts beheading senators.
Hypothetically, in Minecraft.
Exactly. Man, Minecraft's a great game. You can do anything in Minecraft.
I've done a lot of things in Minecraft. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Actually,
game.
We don't need to cover that because you're actually speaking hypothetically of what would happen and what it would take to make fundamental change. And I actually agree. So I think you're good. Never mind. Because you're not actually threatening a single person or anything like that. My bad. Sorry, I was getting carried away there.
But yeah, like it's time. It's time to make senators afraid again. It's time to make congressmen afraid again. Like, these people have no fear. The wealthy elites in this country and our elected officials have gotten to a point where none of them are afraid of anything anymore. They rule with an iron fist. They want no change. They take our money. They give back nothing. And we've been happily just continuing the cycle and electing them over and over again because they say a couple of pretty words and give us a nice little soundbite here and there. And I mean, we were talking about this right
before we started. We were literally talking about, people, I want meaningful reform. What do you want? Give me some specifics that don't violate the Constitution. And the thing is, that's not a gotcha moment. It's hard. And you have multiple sides who are both wrong and won't budge. Like, this is convoluted and shitty. And I'm okay with it being shitty, but understand that. And my problem is everyone's like, it's so simple. Just give toddlers guns. No, that's fucking stupid. Or like, it's simple. Just outlaw everything. No, that's also stupid. And again, a violation of the Constitution, it won't pass. So instead of just trying to put some weird knee-jerk, hardcore, far extreme position that nobody will actually ever go for, let's have a nuanced conversation about things that are hard, but nobody wants that.
Well, because it's fucking hard. And it requires nuance. It requires deep thought. There is no fucking one single thing that we're going to legislate into this country's, into anything, into law, that's going to magically fix every problem. These problems are multi-layered and systemic. Even like, here's the thing. Tomorrow, Joe Biden could forgive all student debt. Forgive it. That would be massive. I'm not trying to minimize
it. With the stroke of a pen.
With the stroke of a pen, it would be massive. And for a little while, a lot of people would be better off. But that isn't going to, that's a Band-Aid on a broken arm. That's not going to fix income inequality. That's not going to fix our corporate, corporations polluting our planet. It's not going to fix corruption in politics. Like, there are multiple steps that need to be taken to fix problems from income inequality to the gun issue, to drug issues. All of these things require multiple solutions, all being done at once. And the only way to do that is with a Congress that's motivated to help people and not motivated to line their own pockets. And I don't care what party you belong to, neither one of them is that.
Yeah, 100% correct. I agree.
I agree with you. So then I kind of have to ask the question, well, what's the first step to do that? Is that taking the money out of politics?
Okay.
That's
again,
a step. I don't know.
I don't mean to sound like doom and gloom, but there isn't one. Revolution. Like, we've crossed the threshold. There is no going back.
Sure, I understand that, but barring not having a revolution, like, what's a good first step? I'm asking the question.
I know, and I'm saying the house is engulfed in flames, and you're saying, what can I do besides getting water damage? And I'm saying there is none. We need to spray water on the house. It's burning to the ground. And it's like, well, yes, but that would cause water damage. So what else can we do? And it's like, I mean, the time for waving blankets is over. That was 30 years ago. This could have been headed off.
I get where you're coming from, Kay, because like I've been in that position for so long. It's like, I don't want to see this country torn apart. I don't want to see war. I don't want to see riots. That's scary as fuck. I'm a father of two, and I just bought a house, for crying out loud. That kind of instability is the thing that turns people like me into paupers on the street or dead. It's scary. It's terrifying. But you know what's even more terrifying? Turning on the goddamn news every day in our current timeline. It sucks, but like, I'm sorry, I don't know what else. I don't know what the answer is, because there's no way. The only way to fix things the way you're asking for, Kay, is if tomorrow everyone woke up and decided, you know what? I'm not going to vote for any Democrat or Republican ever again. I'm going to vote for people that actually want to change, and then make those people that they vote in actually do the work they got voted in to do.
I don't actually know that would work at this point. And seriously, I think if the American people all woke up tomorrow and held hands and kumbaya and decided to not vote for the two parties, it wouldn't matter anymore. Because we've gotten to a point where it does not matter.
Yeah,
the Supreme Court has completely legalized permanent bribery. We have an electoral college that elects leaders that do not have the popular vote. Like, it doesn't matter anymore, because that's the thing, is the governor selects the electoral college. So every single person can vote a third party candidate, vote the same one. And the governor says, nah, Democratic electors. And you know what happens if that gets brought to question? It goes to Congress and the fucking Supreme Court. And do you really think they're going to upset the status quo? Fuck no. We have a runaway train. There is no power anymore for it. Voting is damage mitigation. That's all it is. That's all it is. We are not in control of this government at all, whatsoever. There are a couple of dozen people who buy and pay for the government that runs us. We are not free. This is not a democracy. It's not even a functioning republic anymore. This is an absolute oligarchy that is skyrocketing towards serfdom. So no, again, and feel free to disagree. I'm not chastising you. I'm just saying, like, this isn't me trying to push something. There is I don't see any viable option, because the horse is out of the barn.
Again, yeah, that was me just trying to pull something out of my ass as a happenstance that might make that work. But it's true. Like, the system itself is designed. And here's the thing. Even if all those people got in, they're then working in a system that was designed to make them wealthy, so long as they make everyone else poorer. Your motivation to be it is so hard. Like, we've talked about it with people like AOC. Like, I don't think AOC went into politics to become basically just another bootlicking Democratic shill.
No, I think she went in for all the right reasons.
Exactly. But look what's happened. She has been forced to make concession after concession just to get a few things on her agenda passed. And in doing so, she has sold out to the Democratic Party.
Yep.
She criticizes them. She's very vocal on Twitter.
But
And
at the end
on,
of the day,
but she does nothing.
It's talking points.
She's a toothless. She's become a toothless tiger. That's really what it is. Because if she was willing to hold the Democratic Party hostage, then maybe after a lot of time they'd learn their lesson. But she's not willing to do that because, in her view, and I get it, like there's a lot of people that, in her view, are going to suffer the more power the Republicans win. So she joins with the Democrats and stops them at a few separate points. We get to delay the inevitable.
But even then, I don't even think if AOC held them hostage, it would matter, because in all honesty, the Democrats have no interest in serving even a special interest of voters. Like, the Democratic Party runs on the ticket of we're not the Republicans now. That's all it is.
Here's the thing. I agree. It would take a united front of the few actual leftists and progressives we have in office, constantly forcing Dems to lose. And here's the thing. The public opinion would have to be on their side. And that's not going to happen because the Dems have a great PR machine at making every liberal in the country think progressives are the bad guys.
Or
like
a handful of choppy guillotines.
Yeah. Again, that's it. Like,
so
look how fast people moved when there was chalk drawings in front of a justice's house or a senator's house. Like, fear
that is
works.
Handled instantly, because again, that goes against the status quo. Threatening Supreme Court justices is novel and terrifying to them, and that violates the social order that we're in. So it will be dealt with swiftly. I mean, the school shooting in Uvalde, look what happened. We are just now, yesterday, finally got to hear the story of the mother who went in and rescued her children because she was on probation, and the cops came and told her that if she talked to the media, they'd violate her probation and throw her in prison and take her kids away. So she had to go before a judge and have a judge make an order that her probation could not be violated by this. And I guarantee her life is still going to be terrorized by these fucking cowards. But we just finally got to hear her story yesterday because she needed a court order to be able to use her First Amendment right to speak to the press about how she was tased, arrested, cuffed, had to talk her way out of the cuffs, and then violate the police, blow past them, and literally escape them, go into the school, rescue her 2 kids and another kid. She rescued a strange kid along the way. And by the way, when she did that, the cops were cutting through the gates to get to her, not to get to the shooter. They wouldn't try to break a barricade to get to the shooter. But once she got inside, they immediately started cutting the fence to try to get through to her to arrest her.
I don't know how you vote that out.
You don't.
That's basically where it is. The laundry list of things that would legislation and changes that need to happen are only going to happen under the threat of violence to the people in power. That's the only way.
And it's how it's always
been. You can't vote them in. You can't. You simply cannot. There is not a single politician that has the guts or the ability or will to enact the changes that are going to help people in this country.
But here's my quick question is like, okay, so Kay, as someone who does it, like, you disagree with us, and that's good. But like, what is your, because you're a little more optimistic than we are about this.
I am.
What would you prescribe?
That is a very tough question, and I don't have the answers. I've never preached to have the answers either.
That's fair.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think that you guys are wrong. I don't think that your prescription of outright violence for the people that are in power, I don't think that wouldn't work. I guess my viewpoint is that I always hope for there to be a simpler, easier way where we don't have to hurt a whole bunch of people to get what this country needs. And that may be foolish and starry-eyed, but I don't know. I just feel like I need to be more optimistic about the world than the doom and gloom of the only way that this is going to change is through, massive revolt and violence. And I don't have a good alternative for it. I don't know that there is a good alternative for it.
I look at it this way, Kay. There are literally millions of people in this country dying every day because of hunger, poverty, drug use, police brutality.
Bootstraps.
Existing as brown. There are millions dying. So if the solution to fixing that is that we bring out 435 members of the House of Representatives and another 100 members of the Senate and a president, and we cut their fucking heads off, if that fixes the millions of people that are dying because of their inaction, to me, it's just simply the right people dying for a change.
Man, this is not going on YouTube.
Yeah, by the way, I should probably mention this
episode
here.
on YouTube.
I'm going to put this out there. Like, I'm going to try it, but this is probably going to be a strike on YouTube. So if anybody that listens to this is listening on YouTube and you're wondering where our episode is this week, YouTube's probably going to hit us hard for this one.
Here's the thing. It's not that I don't think that the end result could be achieved. The thing that I think about is, even if we were to do all of what you just stated, it doesn't change overnight.
It doesn't just... Yeah, it does. That's how revolution works. It changes overnight.
Hold on. What I mean is all of a sudden, people don't just stop starving of hunger, or dying of hunger.
No.
Like, it doesn't just happen overnight.
No,
like,
but the
this is a
that causes it is abolished overnight.
Agreed. But I think that sometimes people get wrapped up in this idea that if this one thing happened, then all of this other stuff will stop happening. And it just doesn't happen that quickly. Now, I'm not saying that it can't and that it won't eventually lead to all of these other things, but let's not get wrapped up in the idea that all of a sudden, just because all of that stuff that the beginning of it happens, it's not overnight.
But no one suggested that.
Yeah, that's
no
the
one has made that point.
Making. Yeah, I'm not making the argument that we
did. I said let's not get wrapped up in that. Like,
but no one is getting wrapped up in that.
I don't want it to sound as if. You get what I mean?
No.
Like, sometimes you guys say it as if all of a sudden, we chop off 518 heads and all of a sudden everybody's got something to eat. All of a sudden everybody's got fucking healthcare. All of a sudden cops stop killing brown people. And it doesn't happen like that. No, but that's the way you make it. No, but that's the way you make it seem.
But okay, I don't know how I'm making
I don't know what have we said that makes you think that. Yeah, well, what have we said that makes you that has given you that impression?
Because that's the way you make it sound. You make it sound as if violent revolution happens and all of a sudden everybody that has all these horrible things happen to them, it just stops.
No. And let me be clear. Let me be clear, just to get this out of the way and not get wrapped up in minutia of argument here. I don't believe that's what's going on, and I don't think anybody that advocates for this believes that either.
No.
Here's the thing. What does happen is the system that has been created, the system that has allowed for all of these injustices to happen, that gets taken down. And then we begin the hard, long task of repairing the damage with a new system in place specifically designed to do so. It takes time.
But even then, a lot of the big things do happen very quickly.
We already, but that's the thing, like things for legislating and enacting law, like we can, like it literally is a stroke of a pen. It's a matter of enforcement. Like that's the part that takes time, is having the might, I guess, political and military might to enforce those things. It's kind of like we were talking about with when we did the Civil War episode. It's like if the North had just kept occupying the South, it would have been history might have played out a little bit differently.
And even things that are quicker than, we're talking about like starving people, right? Like, no, if you go and, take out every single CEO of every single food, transportation, and grocery company, bring them out to the choppy boys and the next guy in terms to start giving away your food. Everyone would get fed within days of that happening. If you set up a system for the distribution of goods which already exists. The infrastructure is there. The
Yeah, we
food,
have
the
it.
production, and the infrastructure to feed every single human being in this country already exists. You just have to stop throwing food away and stop denying people the right to eat. That's all you have to do. That could change over fucking night. You could abolish the Border Patrol, which, by the way, the Supreme Court yesterday gave them immunity of all lawsuits for violation of federal crimes.
Within, like, is it 100 miles of the border?
Yes. You could abolish ICE overnight. Now, police violence? No, that's not going to be abolished overnight at all. However, you could immediately dismantle the Supreme Court and all the protections they have overnight, and you would see police stations and police policies changing very rapidly once all their little golden parachutes and shields were gone. Like, it happens pretty quick. And if you look at the history of revolutions, I mean, Cuba went from fucking 15% literacy rate to 90 within 5 years. Every single person got vaccinated and fed and educated. They completely eradicated slavery and hunger. Like, no, you can actually change things really fucking quick once you eliminate all the people who are fucking everything up.
Well, let's remember too that as a planet, this entire planet produces enough food to feed every single person like twice over.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is the infrastructure's already there. We don't got to build it.
And I think that's the other thing I want to make clear too, Kay, is there are great things about what we have now. We have, telecommunications. We have all these systems that have been built up. It's not like we have a revolution and we're like, well, you know what? These cell phones are great, but they were part of the old world. So let's fucking throw them out. Like, we're not going to do that. It's like, hey, the internet is fucking amazing. It gives everyone access to knowledge. You know what? But that started as a government program back in the 80s. So fuck that. Like, that's not what we're talking about doing here. We're talking about eliminating. Okay, I'm just making sure, because it sounds like you think that we're
going to
go back
not
to
at
the Stone
all.
Age.
No, not at all. That's not what I said at all. You guys are so stuck on this, like, that I am so against it.
No,
that
you were making a point that it makes it that we're saying that everything would be kumbaya within 24 hours of a revolution, and we're saying we're not ever advocating for that.
No,
and the only reason I can come up with
sometimes when you talk about it, that's the way you make it sound.
Okay, but understand, you're saying that something sounds a way, which is an opinion, and you can give us no examples of what we're saying. Like, it's like, okay, what words are we using that's triggering that mentality that you're like, okay, when you say stuff like this, blank X, it sounds like this.
When you guys say we chop some people that need it, and all of and everything changes. Yes, I agree that everything changes. Then we also need to talk about the things that you guys were just talking about in terms of how do these things then change? Not just that it changes. Because when you say that it changes, my mind jumps to, well, how fast does this actually happen?
Very fast.
It does happen very fast, but it's not overnight.
It damn near is. There's a playbook for this. Like, you should read Lenin's State and Revolution. Like, there's a playbook for this, and it has been done over and over again, where it literally happens overnight. Like, it happened. Like, the fucking Soviet Politburo was established within a week of the Soviet Revolution. The Cubans established their government within days, where people were immediately getting fed in healthcare. Like, if an actual people's revolution takes place, not a revolution like the Americans had against the British, where it was an oligarch revolution. If an actual people's revolution takes place, it happens. Look what Thomas Sankara did in fucking Africa. Like, that guy completely revolutionized the country within a year. And again, within weeks, everyone was fed. So, like, no, it actually happens very rapidly if it's a people's revolution. It does happen damn near overnight. Not every problem. Legislative problems take years. But problems in terms of getting people food, getting people transportation, getting people medicine, securing the general welfare of the public, that happens immediately. Because you're not establishing an infrastructure. All you're doing is chopping off the heads of the roadblocks. It's like clearing traffic. If there's a traffic jam, suddenly you open up all the lanes. It happens very rapidly that the freeway resumes to normal. Because you're not building a freeway. That takes years. You're simply removing the obstacle.
I mean, ideally in this situation, we're putting in new people into power to fill roles that already exist.
Yeah. Now, you'd have to draft a new constitution. You have to set up a new legislature. Now, that would take months at minimum.
And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Well, but who gives a shit about that? We're talking about fucking feeding people, dude.
Well, but here's the thing. This is what I feel like. Here's
because
what I feel
I
like
think
is
that
happening.
it's all part and parcel.
But it's not.
But hold on. This is what I feel like is happening. We're advocating for X. Now, we haven't made any claims about the length. Before you said this, we didn't make any declarations about how fast or slow this was going to be. We're just saying we're tired of people dying. We think some people need the choppy chop, so that won't happen. And upon hearing us say that, your assumption is immediately that we're talking about this happening overnight. That's an assumption on your part. We didn't say anything to indicate that's what we feel. You're hearing us say this and thinking, well, they clearly think this is going to happen instantly. Well, no, we don't think that. We don't think that at all.
And I think the important things would happen damn near instantly, and the less important things would take more time.
Okay, fine. I mean, I'm not arguing with you about the actual timeline. Like, I'm just saying that sometimes when you guys talk about it, it seems as if when you talk about it, to me, that you make it seem like it would just all of a sudden, all of those things would be fixed. And it's not that simple. Like, there has to be a plan. Like, there has to be things that happen for all of these things to happen.
Yes.
Like, it's not just as simple as the choppy chop and everything all of a sudden is done. And that's all I was trying to say.
But we're having a podcast. We're not actually at the gates of the White House, trying to tell everyone what we're going to do next. We're simplifying things for the sake of the podcast. I don't
care about it anymore. I'm done talking about it, to be fucking honest.
Hold on, we just hit a milestone, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 74, and this is the first time that Matt and Kay have actually gotten into an argument. Chris, you were part of it, but I'm not going to count that. Kay, I can't believe it. I think this might actually be the first time you and I
actually think it's the first time that Kay and Matt have gotten an argument. Usually it's me or Matt or me and Kay. It's usually me talking to one of you two.
It doesn't feel great, Kay, but I think this was needed for our relationship to grow.
And then they fucked. But historians would just say they were good friends.
True. Well, no, it's 2022.
But on the point of that argument, and we can table it and move on. But something I think that is, I think Kay's point is what a lot of people have as well, because I've actually heard this reiterated from a lot of people. It's like, okay, well, you advocate for revolution, but then what? You burn it down, but then what do you do? Because all you ever talk about is burning it down. And you got to read some theory, because there is a playbook. And it was written 150 years ago, and it works really well until the CIA ruins your country. But that's a whole different podcast. But that's the thing. It's like, so if anybody hears this and is wondering, what the fuck does come after the choppy chop? It's like, read the Communist Manifesto, read State and Revolution. Even though I'm not a fan of Trotsky. He wrote some good shit. Mao was a fucking idiot, but he had some really good ideas on how to actually unite people who are working class. Read about Thomas Sankara and the shit he did. There are people who have done these roads and the hard work ahead of us. We just need the political and social will to enact. And that, I think, is actually the hardest part.
Idea is not ideology. There was some quote like that, but it's basically like, look for good ideas wherever they come. It doesn't matter, if a communist has a good idea, or a capitalist has a good idea, or
careful there.
My only suggestion is that it's a good idea. Here's the thing. Again, I'm not suggesting this is hypothetical, so please. But if it was a capitalist that came up with the idea of universal healthcare, granted, that would be a really weird thing for a capitalist to say. But if a capitalist was like, you know what? Our healthcare system is broken. Maybe capitalism isn't the way to fix this. Maybe we need universal healthcare. I'd be like, fucking great idea.
I don't trust any capitalist motivation, but they can have decent ideas for inventions and thought process. Not when it comes to human suffering, but yes, you're absolutely right. The cell phone was invented by capitalists, and it's a wonderful invention.
Exactly. And I would even go so far as, I know we bicker and fight. We're all very passionate guys when we are very entombed in our positions. And so it does lead to a little bit of aggressiveness. But part of the reason why I think Kay is important here is because, Chris has always, has always been a bit of a radical. And, and clearly...
Middle of the road, centrist.
Yeah. In what fucking world are you
right-leaning centrist, always.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, then admit to me that horseshoe theory is true.
I can't do it if you don't want to hear the sounds of vomiting on a podcast.
Exactly. But the reason we've got to have Kay here is, and again, I mean this to be complimentary, is Kay, you oftentimes, I think, represent the everyman in that. I there are times where
he represents the non-radical.
Exactly. And it's good to have that viewpoint, because here's the thing. He's asking a good fucking question. What happens after the revolution is a question that needs to be answered before the fucking revolution happens. Like, if you don't have the answer, the revolution ain't going to end well.
And if anybody actually has that question for us, shoot us an email. I'll send you some literature.
But again, like so many of these problems, it's not a simple, well, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then everything's going to be happy puppies and rainbows. It doesn't work that way. All of human history is a slog of entropy and rebirth. Like that's all it is. Like we got to tear it down and then build it back up. The phoenix is going to rise from its own ashes. Like we've got to just continue going forward until we get to a point where death and destruction is no longer a factor in our beings. And I know that got a little woo out there, and I apologize for it, but that's just the way it is. We have to figure it out. We have to be willing to tear down what doesn't work and build something better in its place.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's generational. And again, that comes to, we just have to fucking decide to do it, because this nation has had multiple opportunities to not lose its fucking soul. We had a revolution against a monarchy, and that could have been a revolution of actually about freedom, and it wasn't. It was about freedom for rich people to not pay taxes and control the government. It's like we literally substituted a monarchy for something worse somehow. And that's been here since day one. Yeah. And then we had a civil war, and that could have changed things. The Civil War could have really changed things and actually separated our cultures so that the progressive United States actually could have been something that bordered on sub-ethical instead of just monstrous. But we didn't. We decided that unity was more important than freedom and civil liberty and morality. Because Lincoln was a piece of shit. Lincoln was not the hero you think he is, and Lincoln was a jackass. And we got to also remember that, like, holding hands with the worst party is also worse. Like, it's actually funny. There's a lot of right-wingers who are like, well, Lincoln was a Republican who would work with Democrats. And it's like, I mean, just read the next page of that history book. There's something happened after that to him. You might want to check it out.
But you bring up a good point, though, Chris. Like, that's actually valid, because that mentality exists today. It's this weird... It's where people like Andrew Yang come from. It's this, I just want to see Kumbaya.
Some genocide.
Yeah, it's light genocide.
These people over here want to genocide. These people over here want to bring about the Third Reich, and these people over here want universal health care. They're the same. We need to find the middle. Shut the fuck up. And again, this goes back to like the MLK quote about the white moderate. That it was more dangerous. There's actually, it's funny, this is something that's always been around, but it's something that white people are starting to understand is this. And I've seen a lot on social media, on Reddit, on TikTok, where there's a lot of people of color who are like, yeah, we actually prefer the overt racism of the South than the subtle racism.
Because it's easy to identify. Yeah, it's right there.
Someone's got a picture of buckwheat on the front of their bar. It's pretty fucking obvious that guy's a piece of shit. But when you go to a fucking cupcake shop and they just, tell you how well spoken you are, you don't realize where you are until it gets to a point where you're already a victim of it. And we could have avoided all of that, but we decided that Kumbaya was the way, that unity was the way. And again, unity for white people was the way. And that's what Andrew Yang brings about. I'm really sorry, but Andrew Yang, and I people are like, but he's Asian. Andrew Yang's a fucking white nationalist. Andrew Yang is the same breed. Andrew Yang is an absolute nationalist. He believes in the white supremacist culture of the United States. He believes in maintaining the status quo. Andrew Yang would love nothing more than to bring back the Clinton years. That's what he wants. He wants it to be the 90s again. And the 90s were not a good time for anybody who wasn't straight and white and Christian.
This went so left,
way out of the plan.
Of what we had planned. But that actually is a good segue to one thing we didn't want to talk about, but haven't. And the reason I want to bring it up is because it kind of matters to me, matters in this vein, is Matthew McConaughey. It's another celebrity that's running for office. He's been he's been kind of floating this idea for a while. Like, I've been hearing rumors about him wanting to run for office for a couple of years now, and he's been taking more and more out there political like, I don't mean out there as far as they're crazy, but he's putting himself out there.
He's talking about popular stuff going on. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, he just spoke in front of Congress, and he was, of every politician I've heard speak, he was the only one that said anything that I felt like mattered. That actually, like, he actually believed what he was saying. And this is what led to the conversation Chris and I were talking about that we were having off screen before the episode, is it ends up being lip service. And, Matthew McConaughey may run. And my question is, because Chris and you and I were also kind of debating a little bit in chat about his motivations and whether or not he was sincere in his beliefs. And so I'm wondering, like, do you think he's the kind of person, based on what you may have or have not seen so far, that if he were elected to office, he would actually work to fight for the changes he was talking about? And for those of you that haven't seen it, he's talking about increasing the age to where you can buy a gun to 21, closing all the loopholes, and just basic common sense reform that we've all talked about here and there.
So, I'll take a couple pieces at a time. So first of all, he's actually one of the first people to actually lay out a couple of points plan that I agree with. Matthew McConaughey wants to raise the age of gun purchasing to 21. I actually think that's a really good fucking idea, because raising the it's just like making the age of buying alcohol 21 is not a prohibition on alcohol, right? Yep. Raising the buying age to 21 is not a prohibition on firearms, because again, I agree with Marx here. Under no pretext should the proletariat ever be disarmed. That does not change that. What that does is wait till your prefrontal cortex is developed before you can buy a firearm. I think that's actually a really good idea. Like, the adult age is 18. You're really not an adult till you're 20 in most cases. Yes. Now, trauma can make sure you're an adult at 5, or it can make you an adult at 30. But generally, people, it's usually a window between like 18 and 20 before that you're really making adult decisions. There's a variable for everyone, but making it 21 really kind of assures that all the horses have crossed that line, or at least a whole lot more. But beyond that, he wants to institute the part that I think is actually the most important is waiting periods. So in California, we have a 10-day waiting period for any firearm, whether that's handgun, shotgun, rifle, automatic. Doesn't matter what you're getting. There is a 10-day waiting period on buying a firearm. And that has been proven to save countless lives, and lives that, first of all, not only would this stop things like mass shootings, the people it really saves are women. The 10-day waiting period has brought down the cases of domestic violence deaths huge. I mean, like, exponentially in this state. That cooling off period is huge, and it saves a fuck ton of lives. And again, that is not disarming the population. That is making sure, because again, I'm sorry, at no point in time do you need a gun and you can't wait 10 days. If you absolutely need to buy a gun on a sudden decision, it can't wait 10 days, you probably shouldn't have a fucking gun. It's just that simple.
And it's one of those things that in no way infringes on all the people that are saying, like, no, we're not saying you can't have a gun. We're not saying you can't own a gun. We're not saying you can't own many guns. We're just saying if you want it, you got to be 21 and you got to wait 10 days.
And make private party transfers have to go through a federal dosing. Again, and that's how it is in California, but you close gun show loopholes where you can't transfer private property and inheritance. Whereas again, you can inherit your grandpappy's guns, you just have to dose them, which means you have to go through the federal background check. Are you of age? Have you committed a bunch of gun felonies? Are you currently have a restraining order for domestic violence? Like, these are things that California says you can't buy a gun if these are going on. And I actually don't believe in restricting gun purchasing from felons just because they're felons. I think it actually needs to be a violent or gun-related crime.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe if someone commits a firearm felony, yes, they should lose their right to firearms. But if someone commits fucking tax fraud, I don't see why they lose their right to vote and they lose their right to guns. That's dumb. Anyway, that's a side point. But Matthew McConaughey advocates for those three things, and that I'm actually with. Because what we have here is, this is not the arming children and teachers, and this is not the abolition. And those 2 points make no sense, because if you're talking about abolishing, first of all, number one, it's a violation of the Bill of Rights. I make this argument, and very few people make this argument, and it's what really scares me, is the idea of creating an abolition is a direct violation of the Second Amendment. You say, well, fuck it, the Second Amendment's bullshit. Okay, but what happens when we just decide we're allowed to legislate laws against amendments you like? Because what happens when you just have the Fourth Amendment doesn't matter, or the Fifth Amendment doesn't matter? What happens when the First Amendment doesn't matter? Yeah, but how
Court literally
fucked up
just
is
did
that?
that.
Yeah, the Supreme Court fucked up the Fourth Amendment. Like, that's a fucking problem. And so to have the Senate be able to legislate laws that violate the Constitution and the Bill of Rights because of public outcry is a fucking problem. If it's that big of a deal, we amend the Constitution. Or we put through common sense things like this, where this isn't a violation of the Constitution, but will save countless lives. The problem is the NRA doesn't want that to happen, because those things hurt gun sales. But the other option is to, again, by banning and by doing things like that, you ask law enforcement to disarm the public. Do you really think the sheriffs out in fucking buttfuck nowhere are going to go disarm their Oath Keeper buddies? No. We are just going to see communities of color get thrown in prison. That's all it is. And that's what happens every time, because all gun banning is inherently racist in this country. It's not in every country, but in the United States, gun bans are racist. And they're always enforced racially because they're enforced by the police. So there's no way around it. If you ask me, and that was a roundabout, but that's what I feel about his firearms strike. Now, the second part you're talking about of, do I believe his intentions? I don't know him. I don't know much. I know that Matthew McConaughey doesn't need money. Yeah. And I know that Matthew McConaughey doesn't need anything. So this is clearly just an ego project. It's one of two things. It's either an ego project or he actually gives a shit, right? But either of those two things, what I like about Matthew McConaughey is he's not a politician. And we had Arnold Schwarzenegger as governor, and he's the greatest Republican governor we've ever had. Yeah. Republicans suck, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's barely Republican. He's a Texas Democrat and a California Republican are the same thing, right? And that's what he is. He's a liberal Republican. Now, everything he did wasn't perfect, but he thought draconian drug laws were stupid. He believed in common sense gun laws. Like, he believed in actual humanity, and he actually did a lot of things to help the working class people. And he gave a shit because, again, Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't need to sell his fucking soul to get into office. He didn't need oil companies to lobby for him.
That I agree with. He actually did it because he really does love America.
He does, and he wanted really to do it. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't believe in everything he does. I guarantee. I mean, Matthew McConaughey's a kind of a Texas Democrat, So no, I disagree with him about a whole lot of shit. He would definitely never be my first choice for a vote. But if we're gonna if there's anyone who could do it, it would be someone like that. Someone who could appeal to both and does not want to be caught in demagoguery and cannot be bought by special interest groups. So no, he wouldn't be who I'd vote for, because I won't vote for capitalists. But yeah. If you're asking, do I think that he would come at this with the right motivations and right intentions and come non-corrupt? Yes, I do. I think he would be a good way to help get someone who was not corrupt in office.
Well, and just to clarify, so like, he was floating the idea of running for governor, I think a year or two ago, and eventually came out and said after talking with his family about it, like, he's got 3 kids, like ages 8, 11, and 13. He's got his wife. He's actually a pretty big into family type dude. And he likes working in the industry. Like you said, he's got money, and he's like, but he came out and said, like, I'm not ruling out a run eventually, and I'm definitely planning on entering into politics at some point, at some capacity. But he said not necessarily in the traditional sense. And this was back in like 2021 when he was on like Jimmy Fallon. So clearly, again, I think things like when they make statements like that, and then you come out publicly like he just did about gun control, to me, that's clearly testing the waters. I think he's feeling it out. He's feeling it out, see what's going on. See what kind of response he gets, which obviously it's been popular. The news has been blowing it up. Like, people are tweeting about him, memeing him. Like, he's getting a lot of good press from it. So I think even if he doesn't go for like the full blown governor, like, I think he's going to, like he said, enter into politics at some capacity eventually. At this point, like, I think his youngest is going to be 9 or 10 by the time he can enter the next race, maybe 11. something like that. So by then, the youngest will be old enough that I think he can do it.
Yeah. I don't know, but like, what do you think about the corruption thing? Like, do you think that's an accurate?
No, I think you've got a fair point there. I do agree that it's just, and this is what I was telling you in the chat. It's the bar is already so low. Saying that Schwarzenegger is the best Republican governor the state of California has ever had, it's not hard to do that. Like,
I mean, I actually saw someone do a point-by-point comparison, like something to keep in perspective of also where we've gone in this country. Nixon was more liberal than Obama.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I agree. The bar's pretty fucking low on this one.
So my big thing is just, we ended up saying we needed to see his platform before we really made decisions. And I think that's a good that's a good stance to take. I am just so tired of seeing randos and Hollywood actors and people like that running for office.
Oh, what's her name? Who was running for governor? The Kardashians. Jenner.
Caitlyn
Jenner.
Yeah.
That's another celebrity that was garbage.
Like, that's like, at best, we get another Schwarzenegger, who again, he was decent for a Republican, but like, he was still conservative and still did some shitty things. That's the best we can hope for. And the worst we can hope for, we already got. We get Trump, Reagan, that's what we risk. I think every time someone like this gets put up there. Now, again, I don't think McConaughey's as idiotic as Trump or as racist as Trump, but even when you're just somebody who's already wealthy, it's the same thing as, what's that guy's name?
I guess my thing is that he's wealthy in terms of he's a well-known actor and he has millions, but he's not a billionaire. Like, that's the difference to me. It's like this, he's not an oil tycoon. He's not a banking tycoon. Like, I draw the line at someone who has been successful and has a few million. Again, that's not terrific, but like, this isn't an oligarch who's starving children. You know what I mean?
And I agree. You've got a fair point there. There is a different mentality. Like, Matthew McConaughey running for office versus, say, like Elon Musk running for office are two, very fucking different things that we need to.
And I'm not trying to fanboy for McConaughey running. I just think we could do a lot worse.
And you're absolutely right, but I'm just. It comes out to, like, isn't that just another form of the lesser of two evils?
Yeah. Oh, one again. He would never get my vote. I will not vote for him. Period. He wouldn't get my vote. I'm just saying it wouldn't break my heart.
And that's kind of where I'm coming at from this. I'm just and again, this is going to be weird, but I want a politicians whose actions actually live up to the hype. I want a politician to be what I thought Obama was when I voted.
Well, again, we saw that with the Bernie Sanders campaign, is the establishment will not let it happen. But okay, what's your take on McConaughey?
I think that McConaughey is truly interested in politics for good reason. I feel like there's no reason for him otherwise to even dip his toes in. He's not like Trump in terms of that he is a failed businessman that has owed favors and rubbed elbows with powerful people his entire life. He was an actor that has worked his way up and is now financially in a position where he can actually put that towards something that hopefully he believes in. And if that's a little bit more right-leaning or a little bit more left-leaning, I think that that's fine. But I get the feeling that he's doing it for the right reason.
Yeah, that's kind of my take too. I don't necessarily trust his platform. Not I'm saying I would ever support him, but I do trust his motivations, at least so far.
Yeah, I don't think he is beholden to anybody. There's no reason for him to be beholden to anybody. That can always change.
Yes.
I find it hard to disagree with your take because I always want to latch onto the hope, but like, politics in the U.S. is a fucking meat grinder.
Yeah, but that wasn't hopeful. That was just that was just the plain fact.
Fair enough, but it's just whenever I see people like him, like AOC, it feels to me like it's a person saying, "This meat grinder is hurting people. I'm going to fix it by jumping into it."
But what the big difference between him and AOC is AOC was in it for the right reason, but she has nothing else to support her in that right reason. She wasn't financially independent, so she's got to, when she became a
she had to fundraise.
politician, not only did she have to fundraise, but once she got elected, she didn't even have enough money to get in a fucking apartment.
Well, and also, once she was in, to get on any committees and do any good, she had to kiss Pelosi's ring.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the biggest problems with the Senate and the House, is that you have to, even if you're pulling a whole Mr. Smith Goes to Washington thing, like, there's rings you got to kiss if you want to actually do any good. And so it's like, there is no way to even get into that machine because, again, you're jumping in a vat of oil to clean it up. You cannot do that without getting dirty. And that's why I say we got to burn it, because there's no going back at this point. And and I think again, I'm with you, Matt, that yes, I don't like rich celebrities doing this. And again, that stinks of oligarchy too. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying at least we know he's not dirty.
Yeah, that's fair. Man, did this ever go off the rails? For everyone listening, like we had a plan coming into this. It was going to be McConaughey, the Novavax vaccine, which we didn't even talk about, and Kavanaugh. And we went fucking way off the rails. But you know what? If you're listening to this podcast, you probably already like that. Yeah, you know us. You like that about us. So I'm okay with it.
Yep. But hang in there. And again, hopefully next week we'll have more to talk about with these hearings. We'll see what happens to the January 6th committee. Hopefully be wrapped up by next week. If not, whatever. But we'll have, since it started today, we'll have a better update for you next time. We'll probably get a whole bunch into that. And maybe we'll even talk about the Novavax vaccine, because I actually think it's politically viable to speak about. But until then, thanks for giving us your ear holes. We love you. And please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And remember that the revolution is you.